regarding code changes for chapters 405, 410, 415, and 420. Ms. Stanton, good evening.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. I'm going to try to keep this very simple and sweet because this is pretty much exactly what you saw at the work session on March 6th. There was a correction to a typo between the work session and Planning Commission, very minor. Question was asked of legal about electronic notices, and it was recommended that we not add that into the code, but have an internal policy to post that on our website or social, however we choose to do that. Planning and Zoning Commission met last Thursday on March 16th and recommended approval 7-0. And with that, I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions of Ms. Stanton before I open the public hearing? Seeing no questions, I will open the public hearing at this time. If there's anyone in the audience who would address the board about this matter, please step forward to the podium. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and we'll move on to Council Bill 27.
An ordinance of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Harrisonville, Missouri, amending sections 410, 020, 050, and 090, Article 3, Title Chapter 410, 180, 190, 220, 270, 560, 620, 670, Chapter 415, 050, 140, 150, 170, 190, 260, Chapter 420, 030, 130, 140, 160, 180, 190, and Chapter 420, 230 of the Harrisonville Municipal Code and establishing an effective date.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Stanton? Seeing no questions, I'll entertain a motion for this ordinance.
Make a motion, we suspend the rules and pass the ordinance to a second reading.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion from Alderman Mills with a second from Alderman Davidson to suspend the rule on Council Bill 27 and advance it to its second reading. A roll call, please.
Alderman Milner.
Aye.
Alderman Reese.
Aye.
Alderman Davidson.
Aye.
Alderman Franklin.
Aye.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
Alderman Mills.
Aye.
Alderman Dorhoff.
Aye.
Alderman Zaring.
Aye.
Thank you. Second reading.
An ordinance of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Harrisonville, Missouri, amending sections 410, 020, 050, and 090, Article 3, Title, Chapter 410, 180, 190, 220, 270, 560, 620, 670, Chapter 415, .050, 140, 150, 170, 190, 260, Chapter 420, .030, 130, 140, 160, 180, 190, and Chapter 420.230 of the Harrisonville Municipal Code and establishing an effective date.
Thank you. A roll call, please.
Alderman Mills.
Aye.
Alderman Davidson.
Aye.
Alderman Franklin.
Aye.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
Alderman Reese.
Aye.
Alderman Milner.
Aye.
Alderman Dorhoff.
Aye.
Alderman Zaring.
Aye.
Thank you. Council Bill 27 is approved and becomes Ordinance 3637. Council Bill 28.
An ordinance of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Harrisonville, Missouri, amending sections 405.030, 585, 595, 060, Chapter 410, 060, 070, 080, 160, 260.b, 280.a, 290, .300.490J7D1, .540.b, .460.b.8, Chapter 490.J.7.d, and 420.250.b.5 and 6 of the Harrisonville Municipal Code and establishing an effective date.
Ms. Stanton?
I have to verify, but I'm pretty sure that the 490 should be 410.
Okay. I think you're right.
it's printed correctly? City attorney is checking.
Over in the computer on that ordinance, it says 490 as well, ma'am.
Thank you. Alderman Davidson, what page in the packet did you find it?
It was on page 1 at the top,
Oh.
where it says I'm sure it's copied from there to there, so.
Yes.
In the ordinance itself, it should be packet page 104 at the very top. I believe Ms. Stanton is correct, and it is section 410.490.J.7.D, subsection 1.
Subsection.
I believe we're just missing a 410 in the title of it, but in the actual contents of the ordinance itself, we have it cited correctly in section 12. Do you agree?
Doesn't need to be reread or anything.
What I recommend is we can have the discussion. Someone should make a motion to amend it to read section 410.490.J.7.D. And then once it's amended, I'll read it by the more correct title the second time.
Section 15 also says 410.490.J.7.D.
I apologize. Yep, it's section 15 is the one at, not 12. It's section 15 is the one at issue, and we just need to add a 410 in the title, but the actual content of the ordinance itself is all there.
Just to the same.
Any title?
Oh, section 12, section 15. One's D, one's D, comma 1.
What's on the first page? The whole title.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just missing the 410.
It's
That's all.
it's in the ordinance, but he wants it in the title.
Yeah.
I am happy to reread it if this board would like that. I don't think it's necessary, especially with the motion to amend. The actual ordinance itself contains the correct reference to our city code.
I'll go ahead and make that motion to change the reading of that to, instead of 490.J.7.D, to read 410.490.J.7.D.
So I have a motion for amendment. I'll need a second.
Second?
So may we vote on the amendment, please? Roll call.
Alderman Davidson,
Aye.
Alderman Milner,
Aye.
Alderman Franklin,
Aye.
Alderman Turner,
Aye.
Alderman Reese,
Aye.
Alderman Mills,
Aye.
Alderman Dorhoff,
Aye.
Alderman Zaring.
Aye.
Thank you. Now we'll go back and vote on the Council Bill 28.
Make a motion to suspend the rule, read, on Council Bill 28 and take it to a second reading.
Second?
A motion from Alderman Davidson with a second from Alderman Milner to suspend the rule on Council Bill 28 and advance it to its second reading. A roll call.
Alderman Mills.
Aye.
Alderman Milner.
Aye.
Alderman Reese.
Aye.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
Alderman Franklin.
Aye.
Alderman Davidson.
Aye.
Alderman Dorhoff.
Aye.
Alderman Zaring.
Aye.
Second reading.
An ordinance of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Harrisonville, Missouri, amending sections 405.030, 405.585, 405.595, 410.060, 410.070, 410.080, 410.160, 410.260.b, 410.280.a, 410.290, 410.300, 410.490.j.7.d, subsection 1, 410.540b, 410.460.b.8, 410.490.j.7.d, and 420.250.b.5 and 6 of the Harrisonville Municipal Code and establishing an effective date.
A roll call, please.
Alderman Davidson.
Aye.
Alderman Milner.
Aye.
Alderman Reese.
Aye.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
Alderman Franklin.
Aye.
Alderman Mills.
Aye.
Alderman Dorhoff.
Aye.
Alderman Zaring.
Aye.
Thank you. Council Bill 28 as amended is approved and becomes ordinance 3638. Council Bill 29.
Wait, Alex, can I preempt something real quick?
I'm sorry?
Look at that last line. I think we're gonna have the same thing there. On D.
That was D.
I'm sorry. Disregard.
Council Bill 29, an ordinance of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Harrisonville, Missouri, amending Article 23 under Chapter 405 zoning regulations, Section 405.630, and creating Section 635 of the Harrisonville Municipal Code and establishing an effective date.
Any questions of Ms. Stanton or Alex before we move on? I'll entertain a motion for this ordinance.
I move to suspend the rule on Council Bill 29 and advance it to a second reading.
Thank you.
Second?
And a motion from Alderman Franklin with a second from Alderman Milner to suspend the rule on Council Bill 29 and advance it to its second reading. A roll call, please.
Alderman Mills.
Aye.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
Alderman Franklin.
Aye.
Alderman Davidson.
Aye.
Alderman Milner.
Aye.
Alderman Reese.
Aye.
Alderman Dorhoff.
Aye.
Alderman Zaring.
Aye.
Thank you. Second reading.
An ordinance of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Harrisonville, Missouri, amending Article 23 under Chapter 405 zoning regulations, Section 405.630, and creating Section 635 of the Harrisonville Municipal Code and establishing an effective date.
Thank you. And a roll call.
Alderman Franklin.
Aye.
Alderman Milner.
Aye.
Alderman Mills.
Aye.
Alderman Reese.
Aye.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
Alderman Davidson.
Aye.
Alderman Dorhoff.
Aye.
Alderman Zaring.
Aye.
Thank you. Council Bill 29 is approved and becomes ordinance 3639. Council Bill 30.
An ordinance of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Harrisonville, Missouri, amending business license regulations and penalties.
Jeremy, is that you? Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Board.
Good evening
How are you
again.
doing? After we made it through Alex's stuff there, I'm blaming Alex for Christina's stuff, but it's, all of that. This will be relatively easy as well. Business licensing has been, I wouldn't say a hot topic, but it has been a challenge in the past, and we've made some adjustments to those things to try to improve enforcement. One of those ways is that, we've been ticketing people who have not been getting their business licenses, and they've now been coming in front of the municipal judge. Some of the challenges that are presented with that is that then once that kind of goes through that process, the revocation of a business license actually would be required to come in front of the board. And so in speaking with Administrator Ratliff and kind of he'd gotten some feedback, we decided that it was probably a prudent idea to let the judge kind of handle some of that process. We felt like that took any of the political play out of that. It's very cut and dried. He has criteria. He knows how long those people have been working through that process in front of him, whether they've made effort to actually go through and get their license. So this handles those changes, giving the municipal court the authority, the judge in particular, to go through and do a revocation. That is not the end-all be-all of a license. If for whatever reason they choose to, every time we say you should shut down, if they open back up, then the next step would be suit through circuit court. The only other adjustment in here was an addition that allowed for, we were trying to put in a provision that keeps businesses from closing one LLC while owing taxes and not having a license and those kinds of things, and then coming back as a new LLC and saying, hey, I'm here, I'm a new business, when in fact maybe they changed the name, maybe they added a DBA, those kinds of things. So we're just trying to stop that work around by some of these less than great business owners.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be happy to answer any questions, and this did go through legal. We worked with Alex specifically on this, so if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer those.
Questions either for Jeremy or Alex from members of the board? All right, seeing no questions, I will entertain a motion on this ordinance.
Make a motion to suspend the rule and take it to a second reading.
I second.
Have a motion from Alderman Davidson with a second from Alderman Franklin to suspend the rule on Council Bill 30 and advance it to a second reading. A roll call, please.
Alderman Turner,
Aye.
Alderman Reese,
Aye.
Alderman Milner,
Aye.
Alderman Davidson,
Aye.
Alderman Franklin,
Aye.
Alderman Mills,
Aye.
Alderman Dorhoff,
Aye.
Alderman Zaring.
Aye.
Thank you. Second reading.
An ordinance of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Harrisonville, Missouri, amending business license regulations and penalties.
A roll call, please.
Alderman Davidson,
Aye.
Alderman Franklin,
Aye.
Alderman Mills,
Aye.
Alderman Milner,
Aye.
Alderman Reese,
Aye.
Alderman Turner,
Aye.
Alderman Dorhoff,
Aye.
Alderman Zaring.
Aye.
Thank you. Council Bill 30 is approved and becomes ordinance 3640. Council Bill 31.
An ordinance of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Harrisonville, Missouri, amending the duties of the mayor and city administrator.
Thank you. I believe Jeremy is going to address this.
So my component of this is the procurement policy. That was what we spoke about at the last work session. Realistically, we modernized the language, made some minor adjustments to the policy, did a lot of cleaning up of the language and just the readability of the policy. This is a combination of our existing purchasing policy along with 2 other municipalities. I don't expect significant big changes from the way we operate based on the changes to this policy. Does anybody have any questions?
Did you have anything you wanted to add?
No,
to the
just
business?
similarly with those same ordinance changes that are along with that go along with the procurement policy, making sure that the Board of Aldermen are getting things reported back to them in an appropriate manner.
And I believe all the aldermen have had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Ratliff and gain further explanation and have questions answered. So that being said, I'll entertain a motion on this ordinance.
I move to suspend the rule on Council Bill number 31 and advance it to a second reading.
Thank you. Have a motion from Alderman Franklin with a second from Alderman Reese to suspend the rule on Council Bill 31 and advance it to a second reading. A roll call.
Alderman Davidson,
Aye.
Alderman Milner,
Aye.
Alderman Reese,
Aye.
Alderman Mills,
Aye.
Alderman Franklin,
Aye.
Alderman Turner,
Aye.
Alderman Dorhoff,
Aye.
Alderman Zaring.
Aye.
Thank you. Second reading.
An ordinance of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Harrisonville, Missouri, amending the duties of the mayor and city administrator.
Roll call.
Alderman Franklin,
Aye.
Alderman Reese,
Aye.
Alderman Milner,
Aye.
Alderman Turner,
Aye.
Alderman Mills,
Aye.
Alderman Davidson,
Aye.
Alderman Dorhoff,
Aye.
Alderman Zaring.
Aye.
Thank you. Council Bill 31 is approved and becomes ordinance 3641. Thank you, Board. I know that was a lot of ordinances, and thank you, Daniel. I know that was a lot of roll calls. Alderman and committee reports. Alderman Dorhoff.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Zaring.
I am good. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Reese.
Yes, just one. I think I sound like a cheerleader sometimes for our different departments and things, but I had another telephone call from a constituent who was going on and on about how wonderful our police department is, talking out there. Apparently there was an incident where a young lady was followed home from work, and from Raytown, I believe the lady said, and followed and followed and followed and followed, and she didn't know what to do. And eventually, by the time she got home, she was told to, she called the police department, and they came to her rescue, and she went up to the department, and they all took care of things there. But she said she could not believe that in such a small department with how few people could be on the street at one time, that 3 officers came to help her. And not only did they do all the legal things that were available, but they were very personable, and because I guess she was nearly hysterical by that time, and they really helped her out. And so the lady that called, it was this lady's mother that called, and she just wanted to thank the Harrisonville Police Department. So consider them thanked.
Awesome. Good news. Alderman Franklin.
Wanted to report on Bright Futures, the adult prom night. Vanessa sat there and raised over $20,000 to help the kids this summer for the food program, the Just For Me Bag Pampers. So she did a wonderful job. And I'm sure that the families and the children are very appreciative. It certainly comes at a good time for all the kids and the families during the summer where they might not normally have that food available. Also, this last Thursday night was St. Patrick's Day up on the square for the ladies' night out, Artisans Corner and Brick House and headquarters and Birdies, and everybody was participating and seemed like a good crowd, even though the weather was kind of So anyway, but it's nice to still see people coming up on the square and enjoying the 4 corners. We've got the ladies' apparels and artisans and the crafts and the restaurants and everything participating and really trying to get people enthused and involved. So it's really good to see.
Absolutely. Thank you. Alderman Davidson.
The only thing is, I think we've got one of those officers in presence tonight out in the hallway. But so if you'd like to come in and very proud of our police department, and thank you for bringing that up. I'm always looking for good opportunities to show how well our police department is run and the officers involved in it. But nothing else other than that, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Mills.
No, I'll pass this evening.
Okay. Alderman Turner, welcome back.
Thank you. Nothing.
Okay. Alderman Milner.
Just a reminder to everybody present that it is spring break and the kids are going to be out and about. So as you're driving, pay attention, because, especially if the weather's nice, they're going to be outside.
First day of spring.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Report from the city administrator.
Yes, ma'am. Just a reminder to the board, April 5th, 6 p.m. in the council chambers for the special meeting. Bus drop-off is April 21st and 22nd this year at City Park on the Sand Links Drive. And then BOA retreat, May the 10th. And then there's several activities that are starting up, including the farmers market, junk in the trunk. So there's a lot of the events as it hopefully is getting warmer and we can get rid of winter. There is also want to make sure the board's aware of the airport reconstruction runway new asphalt pavement project. If you all recall the grant that we received for the $94,000 to do a study of environmental assessment. Well, part of that is that they have to have 3 public meetings in different locations. So one will be at the airport itself for public comment, and I think another, where's the other 2 locations, Carl?
Here at City Hall and at the Cass County Library. They're not meetings, they're just documents.
Documents, right. And so you can review those and give any public comment to it as a part of that. Then if anyone asks what's going on at the bridge, South Street Bridge, there's engineers that are surveying for that project. So if we continue to move that forward, easements continue to get down the road on the South Sewer project, and then the staff are finalizing the selection of the engineer for the Ash Street culvert replacement and Town Creek Channel restoration, and then as well as advertising this week for the RFP on the water line inventory. If you all recall, we received a $250,000 grant for that project as well. The fire department had their very first engineering testing done within the fire department for now the 4 state certified apparatus and operators, as well as they are now being a part of the NFPA physicals at the station being performed. It's a national requirement that they are doing to be a part of that. The K-9 is been taken as in possession, and training has begun. K-9 is Max, and so they'll be seeing that the Max here in the near future out and about, working in the community. Then we have Cass Medical is doing an expansion, and then staff is still working to finish up the UFP and the spur situation as well. And with that, Madam Mayor, that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. You have the municipal court report for February in your packet. I don't see anyone here from the media tonight. I have some comments I wanted to share, and I'm going to ask Chief Hofer to step into the room because you'll want to hear what I'm going to share. And Officer Reinhardt, you can come in too.
If first, not succeed, right? Yeah.
So I wanted to share some information and an email that I received today. Jerry W., J.W. Gary, died on Tuesday, March 14th, 2023 at University of Kansas Medical Center, Kansas City, Missouri. He was 76 years old. Mr. Gary, an officer with the Harrisonville Police Department for 15 years, March the 1st, 1971 to March the 14th, 1986, and served the citizens of Harrisonville as a police officer, detective, sergeant, and lieutenant. I received an email this afternoon from Scott Gary, who is our Assistant Parks Director, who was the son of Officer Gary. And I have Scott's permission to share his thoughts with you and with the police department. Scott says, first, I cannot express how much it meant to me and my family to see Chief Hofer and Detective Catron at the funeral service and providing the police escort this past Saturday. Maybe that's normal for funerals, but for us it meant more. If there were other officers in attendance that we did not see, I want to thank them as well. We were not expecting any of that, and it was great to see that time cannot diminish respect. So many heartfelt thanks to Chief Hofer, Detective Doug Catron, and the Harrisonville Police Department for being there. It was an honor, and they represented the city well. Also, I want to thank you and Brad, Chief Hofer, Grant Perky, the Board of Aldermen, the Park Board, so many volunteers and donors, and the Harrisonville community for supporting the Marler Ward Allen Park rebuild, rededication last April. This meant a lot to him and to us. While many lost their loved ones that fateful day in 1972, I thank God that my father had that day off from work that morning. Otherwise, I might not have been here today to help serve the same community. He was able to touch the lives of many, and my dad was so glad and thankful he got to be there for that rededication. And we are thankful he was able to attend and be a part of it before his passing. Thank you for making that possible. On behalf of me and my family, we are truly grateful. With appreciation and gratitude, Scott Gary, Assistant Director, Parks and Recreation, the City of Harrisonville. So thank you, Chief Hofer. Thank you, Officer Reinhardt. Please share that with your fellow officers and command staff and Board of Aldermen. Thank you for what you've done, and staff, thank you as well. With that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Thank you. I have a motion from Alderman Franklin with a second from Alderman Milner. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Thank you.